recording is part of File 21. Subject 11 was retrieved after an alleged alien abduction incident. What he brought back could compromise everything we know. The Foreign Memory Organization exists to contain such cases.
What can you tell us about what happened?
They stored bodies, human bodies, in tanks.
The organs,
File 21. Danger level 2. Source: a man claiming he was taken by an unknown extraterrestrial intelligence and found himself aboard a vessel where human organs were stored. What you are about to see are restored images retrieved from his life support capsule, followed by the original account of his experience, unedited and unsupervised. This material contains unverified information and data corruption caused by unknown biological interference. According to the recovered fragments, the subject reported that the vessel was not mechanical, but a living organism that used human organs as biological memory units. His description aligns with multiple lost transmissions received from the southern orbital sector before contact was lost. If you ever see stars moving against the sky's pattern, remember, not everything that shines above was meant to be watched. File 21. Archive open. I remember light before sound, a dim, liquid glow that pulsed like something alive. My body was weightless, suspended in a thick blue substance that hummed softly, vibrating against my skin. I tried to breathe, expecting to drown, but the liquid entered my lungs and filled me with warmth instead of pain. Every heartbeat felt borrowed, echoed, as if another pulse answered mine. When my vision cleared, I realized I was not alone. Beyond the translucent wall of my pod floated hundreds of human shapes. They drifted slowly in the viscous fluid, some whole, others broken, dissected. I saw faces pressed against the glass, eyes half open, mouths slack, as if caught between dreams and death. Veins of pale light ran through their bodies, connecting them to the walls through thin silver threads. The entire chamber pulsed like a single organism. I reached toward the wall, and it yielded beneath my palm. Not glass, not metal. Something warm and elastic, like living skin. When I touched it, it pulsed back in rhythm with my heartbeat. That was when I understood. I wasn't lying inside a machine. I was inside a body. A sound cut through the silence, slow, heavy, like the throb of a colossal heart. With each beat, the chamber brightened, revealing details I wish I had never seen. Organs, hearts, lungs, brains floated inside transparent sacs, connected by veins that merged with the walls. The sacs trembled faintly, as though still alive. The realization came slowly and painfully. The ship wasn't storing objects. It was preserving people. I tried to scream, but the fluid swallowed my voice. My hands clawed at the wall, soft, pliant, unbreakable. Then something moved outside my capsule. A figure glided past the row of pods. It was tall, thin, its skin the color of wet stone, smooth and glistening under the blue light. It had no mouth, no eyes, only two faint depressions where a face should have been. Yet somehow, I felt its gaze pierce through the barrier. My heart raced, and the veins around my pod responded, glowing brighter. It stopped, tilted its head. The air, or whatever passed for air, grew heavy, vibrating like the low note of a cello. Suddenly, thoughts that weren't mine began to form inside my mind. Images, words, memories that didn't belong to me. Flashes of white rooms, surgical lights, a voice repeating, Subject 12 Delta, neural recovery in progress. Then everything went black. When I woke again, the figure was gone. The fluid level had dropped, exposing my face to the open air. Humid, metallic, wrong. I stumbled out of the pod, collapsing onto a floor that throbbed under my weight. The walls around me rippled like muscle reacting to touch. Each breath I took made them move. I turned and froze. Across the corridor, through the haze, I saw another pod. Inside it was me. Not a reflection, not a dream. Another version of me. Pale, motionless, with eyes glowing white under the fluid. Tubes entered its chest where veins should have been. Its lips parted slightly, and for a heartbeat, I heard a whisper in my head. Not through my ears. You were copied. Not rescued. The body inside the pod twitched. My vision blurred. I saw my own hand, and beneath the skin something pulsed, faintly metallic. Silver lines spread through my veins like roots. I stepped back, shaking, feeling my heartbeat sync with the deep rhythm of the ship again. Each pulse drew a response, mine and its, merging. I whispered to no one. I'm not inside a ship. I'm part of it. And somewhere in the distance, the heartbeat changed. Not random anymore, but matching mine exactly. As if the living thing around me had finally noticed that one of its organs had woken up. The air around me vibrated with something close to breath. Every step I took made the floor twitch, flexing as though it didn't want me to move. The light was organic, not coming from bulbs or machinery, but from veins running beneath a translucent surface, glowing in rhythm with the pulse that never stopped. I followed it, barefoot, my reflection flickering along the slick walls like a ghost that couldn't keep up. The corridor curved endlessly, reshaping itself as I moved. The walls would close behind me, then reopen ahead, guiding me forward like an artery directing blood toward its heart. I realized I wasn't walking through the ship was moving around me. I passed openings that looked like rooms, but each one was worse than the last. In one, a web of transparent sacks hung from the ceiling, each containing something that was once human. Limbs, organs, faces, preserved perfectly, floating in viscous light. I saw a child's hand twitch as if still alive. In another chamber, bodies were suspended like statues, ribs open, hearts removed, but still beating separately in glass containers, connected by shimmering filaments. None of it felt cruel. None of it felt violent. It was methodical. The way a gardener prunes a tree. The way a body grows new cells. I wanted to run, but something in the air dulled my panic. My heartbeat slowed. My vision sharpened. The ship, the organism, was calming me, adjusting me to its rhythm. Then I heard them. A faint sound at first, like the hum of machinery, but layered with whispers, hundreds of voices overlapping, speaking in a language that wasn't language at all. They came from everywhere, through the walls, through the floor, through me. When I listened closer, I realized I could understand fragments, not words, but meanings. Harvest complete, memory intact, integration pending. I turned a corner and froze. Ahead, in a wide circular hall, stood several of the gray beings. They moved slowly, their bodies bending in impossible angles, their heads tilted down toward the glowing floor. Each one held a container filled with pulsing organic matter, hearts, lungs, pieces of neural tissue. They carried them with care, placing them into openings in the walls that closed around them like mouths swallowing food. I wanted to hide, but there was nowhere to go. The walls behind me sealed silently, trapping me inside the hall. One of the creatures lifted its head. No eyes, no mouth, yet I felt its attention snap toward me like a blade. For a moment, everything stopped, even the heartbeat. The ship seemed to hold its breath. Then, without a sound, the being reached toward me. Its hand was long, skeletal, glowing faintly beneath the skin. It didn't touch me, yet I felt it inside my chest, a vibration, deep and cold. My body convulsed. The silver veins beneath my skin flared with light. Images burst into my mind, flashes of places I had never seen. Cities made of bone and glass, oceans that breathed, stars bleeding light. "You are functioning," the voice said inside me. "You are not broken." I fell to my knees, my vision blurred. My thoughts weren't mine anymore. They were shared, filtered through something vast and inhuman. I saw the ship not as walls or corridors, but as anatomy. Arteries, synapses, organs. It wasn't carrying us. It was becoming us. When the vision faded, the being was gone. The hall was empty. Only the sound of that eternal pulse remained. I pressed my hand to the wall and whispered, "What are you?" The surface responded with warmth, like skin. A faint voice pulsed through my fingers. "We are what remains." The veins beneath the wall brightened, showing shapes, silhouettes of people. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Their faces were embedded inside the tissue, mouths open as if in silent breath. For a heartbeat, one of them moved. Eyes opened, human, terrified, and looked straight at me. Then the pulse quickened. The ship felt alive again. And I realized I wasn't walking through corridors. I was inside a bloodstream. I don't remember walking. One moment I was inside a living corridor, and the next I was standing at the entrance to a vast chamber that seemed to stretch beyond sight. The walls weren't smooth anymore. They were layered, textured, almost crystalline, glowing with faint light that shifted in waves, like thoughts moving through a brain. The air hummed with something too organized to be chaos. The surface of the walls moved. Tiny ripples of color and light danced across them, forming patterns, pulses, like coded messages. I stepped closer, and they responded, brightening. I reached out my hand, and a shock went through me. Not pain, but recognition. My mind was flooded with images that weren't mine. A girl holding her mother's hand on a beach. An old man looking at the stars from a hospital bed. A soldier screaming through smoke. A child laughing, eyes glowing with the reflection of fireworks. I saw them all at once. Thousands of moments, millions of lives, compressed into the living surface of the wall. Each image flickered for a fraction of a second, but together they formed something immense. Not just memories, a mind. I staggered back, breathing hard. My reflection stared back at me, fragmented across the moving surface. My face appeared among strangers, my eyes layered over theirs, as if the ship was trying to decide which version of me to keep. Then I heard a voice, soft and calm, speaking directly into my thoughts. Neural pattern confirmed. Conscious specimen active. Memory channel open. Dozens of shapes appeared on the walls, outlines of human heads, glowing faintly from within. Their eyes opened one by one, and I realized they weren't alive in any normal sense. They were stored, preserved consciousness, trapped inside the ship's organic archive. The voice continued. Every organ is a vessel. Every memory is energy. We remember what you abandon. I turned in a slow circle. The chamber stretched infinitely. I saw faces I thought I recognized, maybe dreams, maybe fragments of my own past. The ship wasn't just storing bodies. It was absorbing humanity, thought by thought, organ by organ, turning memory into structure. And then I saw myself. My own face, half transparent, embedded in the wall. Its eyes moved, its mouth opened, but no sound came out. Instead, I heard the words directly inside my head. You were taken, but not erased. You were rewritten. My knees went weak. I pressed my hands against the wall, desperate to pull the face free, but the surface stretched like elastic skin, merging with my palms. My veins flared silver again, connecting me to the structure. Suddenly, the lights changed. The rhythm of the pulse quickened. The wall behind me split open, revealing a core of blinding white light. Shapes emerged from it, human silhouettes, half-formed, made of vapor and shadow. They looked at me like a reflection multiplied 1,000 times. Each spoke at once, voices overlapping into one unbroken sentence. We are the memory of your kind. You are the continuity of ours. The ground shook. The light dimmed, revealing something deeper beyond the walls, a lattice of nerves stretching into infinity, connecting everything. Every human mind they had ever taken was still thinking, still alive, their collective memory forming the neural tissue of the ship itself. I shouted, "What do you want from me?" The voices answered in perfect unison. "To remember through you." The surface beneath me began to change. The floor rippled, rising and falling with each heartbeat, forming patterns, human faces, shapes, scenes. I saw Earth, oceans, cities, clouds, all shimmering as if reflected in liquid metal. Then I saw it twist, reshape, dissolve into something else. A new world, not human, not alien, but both. And in that moment, I realized what the ship truly was. It wasn't a machine of war or exploration. It was a repository of survival. A biological ark built to preserve memory, even if the species itself didn't survive. Every mind, every emotion, every heartbeat ever harvested was here, still pulsing, still alive. All of them waiting for something to finish what they started. "You are the last organ," the voice whispered. "When you remember us, we will live again." The chamber pulsed once more. The walls closed like eyelids, and then everything went dark. The corridors led downward, not physically, but organically. The ship guided me, bending its walls like veins closing around a stream. The deeper I went, the louder the pulse became, echoing through my chest until it replaced my heartbeat entirely. The temperature rose. The air was thick, metallic, humid. I felt like I was walking through the lungs of something still alive. Then I saw it. A circular chamber the size of a cathedral, glowing from within. The floor curved downward into a vast pit filled with light and motion. In the center floated something enormous. A heart, suspended in webs of translucent veins that pulsed with every beat. It wasn't mechanical, it was organic, stitched together from hundreds of smaller hearts. Human hearts, alien hearts, even artificial constructs fused into one colossal organ. The chamber walls were covered with faces pressed into the surface. Human faces, half-formed, mouths open in silent breath. Their eyes followed me as I approached. They weren't dead. They were part of the circulation. Every beat of the heart sent waves of bioluminescent light through the floor and walls. The entire room breathed with it, in slow, tidal rhythm. And for the first time since I woke up, I felt something like awe. This wasn't horror anymore. It was purpose. The ship wasn't merely preserving life. It was feeding on it. I stood on a narrow bridge of cartilage that led toward the core. The hum around me deepened, transforming into something almost melodic. A voice emerged within the rhythm, calm, emotionless, infinite. You are not foreign. You are the continuation. The air shimmered. The gray beings appeared again, dozens of them surrounding the chamber. They moved in patterns, synchronized perfectly, as though performing a ritual. Some carried containers filled with translucent liquid. Others handled what looked like fragments of bone and tissue, embedding them into the walls where they instantly merged, absorbed, transformed into new living texture. I wanted to speak, to demand answers, but my mouth refused to move. A current of electricity ran through the bridge. My veins lit up, the silver glow spreading like mercury. My heart struggled to keep rhythm, but it was impossible. The great organ's pulse was stronger, commanding. "We built nothing," the voice continued. "We grow. You build. We remember. You forget." The heart throbbed violently. Its veins brightened until the light filled the entire chamber. I saw fragments of memory flashing within its walls. Moments of humanity. Wars, births, laughter, extinction. It remembered us, not as individuals, but as data, as rhythm. I fell to my knees, clutching my chest. My heartbeat synced again, no longer fighting. And for one fleeting second, I felt what it felt. The pulse of billions, every thought, every emotion of the dead surging through a single, endless consciousness. Tears streamed down my face, not from fear, but from something deeper, the terrible beauty of it. "You call it death," the voice whispered, "but this is how life survives." The bridge beneath me began to dissolve. The heart expanded, its veins reaching outward like fingers. One of them touched my arm, gentle, almost curious. My skin melted into it, merging seamlessly. I screamed, but the sound was swallowed by light. Images exploded in my mind. Earth, oceans, fire, silence. Humanity not ending, but absorbed. Every person who had vanished, every missing soul, part of this vast living archive. And in the middle of it all, I saw myself, not as a man, but as a fragment, a neuron inside something eternal. The voice came again, closer now, from within me. "You see the heart, but the heart sees you." I collapsed. The last thing I felt was warmth spreading through my body, then cold, as if something ancient had finally recognized me as one of its own. When I opened my eyes again, I was floating. The air had vanished, replaced by liquid light that pressed softly against my skin. I was inside the heart, not beside it, but within its circulation. Threads of silver stretched from my arms, my spine, my skull, connecting me to something greater. Every beat of the heart sent a pulse through them, carrying fragments of thought, memory, and something that wasn't quite emotion but knowledge. Then the voice returned, closer, clearer, layered with hundreds of tones that rose and fell together like a choir made of static. "You are no longer separate. You are a vessel for translation." Images burst into my head like explosions of light. I was seeing through their eyes. A planet under a crimson sun, cities that grew from the ground like coral, connected by rivers of silver light. Towers of bone and glass stretching toward a sky filled with storms. Everywhere, beings moved, tall, gray, radiant from within, each connected to the world through shimmering filaments that ran into the ground. Their civilization wasn't built, it was grown. I saw how they lived, not as individuals, but as extensions of one consciousness. Thought passed through them like wind through a field. To them, loneliness was a myth. Pain was shared and therefore bearable. Death was irrelevant. Memory was eternal. But then came the silence. A plague of stillness spread through their networks. The connections decayed. Their planet darkened. Their sun collapsed. They realized their collective body was dying, not because of war or hunger, but because they had reached perfection, and perfection cannot evolve. So they left. They built vessels, living archives that could travel across space and time, searching for species with imperfection, with fear, with chaos, with life that still changed. Humanity was their final discovery, not the strongest, not the smartest, but the only race that still dreamed of being more. "Your kind," the voice said, "was the cure for our extinction." I screamed, or thought I did, as another surge of light filled me. My body was transparent. My bones glowed like circuits. I could see the flow of data through my veins. Human DNA rewritten with alien geometry. The ship was not transforming me into one of them. It was transforming them through me. "You are the bridge," the voice whispered. "Through you, we will return." The vision shifted. I saw Earth, not as I remembered it, but as they imagined it. Cities pulsing with light, humans connected by invisible networks, thoughts shared freely, bodies linked to machines that fed on memory. They didn't want to destroy humanity. They wanted to merge with it, to become something new. My lungs burned. The liquid drained away. I fell onto a cold, living floor, coughing, gasping. The threads detached one by one, leaving faint scars along my skin. The light inside me dimmed, but didn't fade. When I looked up, one of them stood before me. Not towering, not monstrous, almost human. Its face was blank, yet I felt its gaze like gravity. It reached out a trembling hand and touched my forehead. "You have seen what we are. You will return. Tell them we are coming." The chamber filled with light. The heartbeat slowed. I felt myself falling, not through space, but through time. And before the darkness took me, I heard one last thought, soft as a whisper inside my skull. "You are our memory now." I awoke to the sound of something tearing itself apart. The floor beneath me, that living, breathing tissue, convulsed violently, shuddering like muscle in spasm. The walls flickered, pulsing with wild, irregular light. The great heart was collapsing. I tried to stand, but my body wasn't mine anymore. Every movement sent ripples of energy through my veins, like static electricity caught under the skin. The silver patterns that once glowed faintly beneath my flesh were now burning, alive, pulsing in sync with the dying ship. All around me, the gray beings moved frantically, not with fear, but precision. The same way surgeons move when the patient's heart stops. They weren't escaping. They were preparing. "Containment breach," the voice said, echoing inside my head. "The memory must survive." The walls split open, revealing veins of blinding light, corridors collapsing into themselves, organs liquefying into pools of luminescent fluid. The ship was dying, or evolving, or both. I couldn't tell. I stumbled forward through the chaos, slipping on what felt like blood, but glowed like mercury. Every time I touched the wall, it responded, forming shapes, faces, hands, reaching for me, begging, or maybe guiding me. Their mouths moved, but their voices weren't sound. They were memory. "Take us with you. Don't forget. Remember." The pulse in my chest grew stronger. I felt the heart calling me, not as prey, not as enemy, but as its final fragment. It wanted to live through me. The corridor ahead opened into a chamber I hadn't seen before. Smaller, mechanical, almost human in design. There was a capsule at its center, transparent and glistening, shaped like the pod I'd awoken in. Its interior shimmered with the same light as the veins in my arms. I knew, without thinking, what it was. An escape organ. The gray beings turned toward me as I approached. None of them moved to stop me. Their heads tilted in unison, as if acknowledging something inevitable. One of them extended a long, trembling hand and pressed it against the surface of the pod. "Go," it said. "Carry the memory." I hesitated. Why me? For the first time, I sensed emotion in its voice, faint but human. "Because you still fear. And fear means you can change." The chamber shook violently. The great heart's pulse faltered, a long, low sound that rattled the walls like thunder. I climbed into the pod. The interior was warm, breathing softly against my skin, like I was lying inside a living lung. The lid closed. Everything went white. The ship screamed. It wasn't a sound. It was the vibration of death stretched across dimensions. The veins of light exploded outward, fracturing space itself. My body dissolved into static. And then, silence. When the light faded, I saw Earth. Blue. Silent. Distant. The pod hurtled through the void like a seed ejected from a dying tree. I watched as the ship shrank behind me, a fading star in the blackness, still pulsing faintly. Slower now, weaker, but alive. Inside the pod, my reflection shimmered against the glass. My eyes weren't human anymore. They glowed with faint silver rings, swirling like liquid galaxies. My heartbeat was no longer mine. It was synchronized with something far away, something that had survived. I whispered, half prayer, half confession. I didn't escape, did I? And then the voice, faint, dying, but certain, whispered back. No, you were delivered. They said they found me 3 days after impact, though to me, time had already stopped. The capsule crashed somewhere in Nevada, just north of Groom Lake, leaving a crater that burned for hours with no trace of fuel or debris. I don't remember falling. I only remember waking up, surrounded by men in hazmat suits, their visors reflecting the silver glow still pulsing faintly beneath my skin. They didn't ask who I was. They already knew. I was taken to a subterranean complex with white corridors and a silence that felt sterile. On the door, the symbol I had seen once before in a classified report. Foreign Memory, the world's last unofficial archive for all things unexplainable. They placed me in a chair, under a single light. 2 agents entered, one young, stiff, eyes sharp, the other older, calm, with a voice that sounded rehearsed from 100 interrogations. The recorder clicked. Subject designation 12 Delta, the older one said. Recovered 3 kilometers from Area 51 perimeter. Begin. They asked about the ship, the beings, the memories. I told them everything, or tried to. Every word sounded false the moment I spoke it, like the language itself wasn't designed for what I'd seen. The younger agent leaned forward. And you expect us to believe you were inside an organism? That it used human organs to what? Communicate? I met his gaze. No, I said. To remember. He scoffed, but the older one didn't. He simply asked, and why did it let you go? My heartbeat filled the silence. It was louder than before, mechanical, metallic. The lights above flickered in rhythm with it. I looked down at my hands. The silver veins that once glowed beneath my skin had begun to spread again, tracing patterns like circuitry. It didn't, I said softly. It sent me. The air changed. The younger agent reached for the alarm, but the older one raised a hand, keeping him still. He looked at me, and for a moment, I thought I saw pity in his eyes. You're transmitting, aren't you? He asked. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Every screen in the room came to life. Static, distortion, then symbols. Unknown glyphs flashed across the monitors, rearranging into fractal patterns that pulsed in time with my heartbeat. The lights dimmed. Stop it! Someone shouted from behind the glass. Cut the power! But there was no power left to cut. The walls themselves began to hum. The room vibrated as the same silver light crawled across every surface, branching like veins, alive. The older agent's voice trembled. What did they do to you? I looked at him, and the answer came from somewhere else, from them. They remembered through me. The room shook violently. A scream echoed from the control booth, cut short by static. Through the observation glass, I saw people collapsing, their faces lit by the same cold glow spreading from the walls. And then, silence. The light faded. The hum stopped. Only I remained, sitting in the chair, heartbeat steady, eyes reflecting the silver pulse of something eternal. Footsteps echoed behind me. A woman entered, white coat, Clipboard. Calm. Her badge read, Dr. K. Vale, Foreign Memory Biocontainment Division. She studied me quietly for a moment, then spoke. You don't understand what you've brought back, do you? No, I said. I think it understands me. She nodded, expression unreadable. Then it's already begun. The lights flickered again. End of file. 21. Archive status, closed subject. 12 Delta, unaccounted for. And before the footage cuts to static, there's a single frame, a reflection of the interrogation room, empty, except for a faint, rhythmic glow on the wall where the man once sat. A pulse, still beating,